The VCT Americas Stage 1 playoffs is about to start, and it's time to rank the panic levels of all the fan bases of all 11 teams right before it starts. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing my VCT Americas panic ranking, so this is how each fan base is feeling about their team. We've done this a couple times this season. I figured I would do one more before playoffs start, and we're not just going to be talking about the playoff teams, we're going to be talking about all of them. So this is the board. These are the levels of panic that we'll be talking about today. At the very bottom, we have the Withered Wojak. So this is beyond panic. This is just accepting defeat. This is just things are bad. Then right above that, we have panic. So panicked, obviously. In the middle, we have copium. So in past videos, I just had a neutral Wojak, but I figured put copium as a neutral one and then put hopium above it. So copium is the neutral level. So you're not mad at your team, but you're definitely not feeling super elated, so you are coping a little bit, being like, oh, we'll do better in the future. Then we have hopium, so this is for fan bases that are huffing the hopium, feeling really good about your team, but not maybe at the very top. Then of course we have the Chad Wojaks, so this is teams that are feeling just like absolute Chads right now, feeling really good, very confident about your chances. So those are all the levels. Let's get into the teams. We're going to be starting with an interesting team to talk about, and that is Sentinels, and I'm putting them in copium. So I'm putting Sen in copium because a lot of what we've been discussing about Sentinels has been the fact that they have kind of been screwed over by the fact that they did well early in the year. They haven't got a lot of rest time. There's a lot of odds on them, so teams can be more prepared for them than they can against other teams. And I think it's not only that kind of shot them in the foot, but also the fact that teams definitely get up to play against Sentinels. They definitely bring their A game against this team. They know they're going to be on the bigger stage. They know this is probably going to be their most viewed match of the split, so why not try your hardest? So it's hard to match that level of effort when you've gone through what Sen have gone through this year, but I also don't really like the burnout excuse. If you want to be a successful team, if you want to be consistent throughout the year, you have to be able to weather that storm, but at the same time, it is a fair thing to say about Sentinels. So I do think Sentinels can absolutely come back and make champions, and maybe this, month or 2 month break that they're about to have will end up being beneficial for them. Ended up being a good thing for 100 Thieves when they had that break in between kickoff and stage 1, so could be the same for Sentinels. Moving on to a team that is in the depths, we have Furia, and this one doesn't require a lot of explaining. Furia have looked bad. This team definitely wasn't expected to be one of the top teams in the league, but definitely better than this. Last year, Furia were an okay team. I saw some people taking them to win LCQ and some people believing that this team could go on a run, and I just haven't seen that at all this year. If you're a fan of this team, I am sorry. Winless throughout the split, only winning 2 maps the entire stage. It just doesn't look good for Furia this year. If they can make a roster change and get Pancata, maybe this team has a better stage 2, but it's going to be an uphill battle even with adding a piece like that. And joining their Brazilian brothers, we have MIBR, also going in the Withered category. With MIBR, it's a slightly more optimistic story. While they didn't win a single map throughout the entire stage, this is a team that maybe has something they can build off of. They looked decent at kickoff, weren't able to match that same level of quality at this stage, but at the same time, this is a roster that maybe is just gonna have to take some time and maybe have to learn a lot and have a lot of lessons through just losing to be able to become something good next year. When it comes to Brazilian talent, in terms of getting that top tier talent that can compete with other top teams in the league, it is hard to find. So maybe MIBR just ends up trying to develop this roster for a long time, investing in the future. So there is maybe some optimism that you can find there. But at the same time, it's been really bad. It's been really rough. As I said, they did not win a single map. So it's kind of hard to put them anywhere but the Withered category. But if you're a fan of them, maybe you're feeling a bit better, but I kind of doubt it. Moving on to a North American team, we have C9 ending up in the hopium category. So C9 have been up and down in these rankings. I believe before this split started, I had them in panic because of the roster changes and how they looked at kickoff. But yet again, they had a good regular season stage. But when push comes to shove in playoffs, it's going to be a different story, potentially. For this team's fan base to truly believe that this isn't another fluke run, I think they have to really bring it to other teams at playoffs. They have some really good pieces on their team. Oxy looks like one of the best players in the league right now. Rooney has looked fantastic in his return to this roster. Vanity is looking like a solid IGL right now. Moose has been a good addition. There's some good things here, but it all depends on, can this team make it to Shanghai? We've seen this team go through through stages like that, look really good during the regular season split. They did the same thing last year. So everything is on the line for these playoffs. If they make it to Shanghai, then the narrative changes around this team. But I think this team, I do question the sustainability of the way that they play, but I could very well be wrong, and they could see themselves in Shanghai very soon. Moving on to Evil Geniuses, I feel like you're gonna put them in Hopium right now, actually. I kind of want to put them in Copium because they didn't make playoffs, but they played really well to end the split. They looked pretty bad to start it. They were losing every match. They lost 3 in a row, but then they ended up being like, well, our split's done. We're probably not making playoffs. Let's just try to play as well as we can for the end of it. So it seems like when the pressure is off this team, they end up playing a lot better, which that's the thing for some teams. It can happen. But I do feel like maybe all 2 fans of this team might actually be pretty hopeful for this team's chances in the future. So Hopium, I feel like, is a decent spot for them. Again, they could also be putting Copium. You could see that as those 2 last wins as Cope, but it was against 2 teams that had much higher expectations from them in Sentinels and Energy. So if they can ride that momentum into stage 2, we could see this team possibly at champs. Moving on to our first Chad level team, we have Leviathan in the Chad level. Now you could possibly put this team's fan base in Hopium, maybe just saying, oh, their run this split is a fluke, they're not actually that good. But I would say anybody making that argument would kind of be wrong, because this team looks fantastic. Any team with Aspas playing the way that he is right now is bound for success. And as I've said in other videos, all other parts of this team have been firing on all cylinders. This whole roster is playing very well right now. They have a very good shot of making it to Shanghai. They only need the 1 win. So that 1 win's not going to come easy to them. It is going to be a fight with whoever they end up playing, but I think they can do it. And I think if you're a fan of this team, you're feeling like Chad. You're feeling like this team is going to go places. Moving on to Loud. I feel like Loud were here a couple weeks ago, but then they get those last 2 wins to end their split, and I feel like Copium is a decent place to put them. They've been in this neutral level a lot. I feel like Loud, they've been pretty up and down this year. They had a good kickoff where they end up qualifying for Madrid, but then their Madrid performance left a lot to be desired. Then they lose their first 3 matches of the split, but then they end up winning their last 2 to qualify for playoffs. And with how they've been playing, I've been saying that it looks like the old Loud is back, the team that we saw do very well at kickoff. But I don't know if the fan base is fully convinced yet. They do have to beat 100 Thieves to make it to the next round in playoffs, and then they have to beat whoever they play there to make it into Shanghai. So again, there are no easy roads to Shanghai, even for the top 2 teams there. But it does feel like Loud is playing better. Maybe they found their mojo. Maybe they lost it after just playing so much and having the visa issues. But it looks like this team is potentially back. So I'm not going to count them out just yet. And I feel like the fan base is maybe giving them a little bit of credit for the, at least, recovery that they had from early in the season. Moving on to Energy. Now, I feel like there might be Energy fans that put them down here. I am an Energy fan as well. And I'm going to say that I feel like just panic level is more accurate. I feel like putting them down in the withered category is just maybe a bit of an overreaction. So far, this team hasn't lived up to expectations at all this year. They were expected to be a super team, but they don't even qualify for playoffs. So how can you be a super team if you don't even get to play against other super teams? And maybe their roster wasn't constructed in a way that is going to lead to success, despite the star power on that team. But my counter argument, my maybe copium argument, is this team, again, they looked really rough, but they did win some matches during this stage. They were nowhere near as bad as Furia or MIBR. This team was able to win winnable matches, but lose against the teams that were just playing better than them. When they were playing against Furia, MIBR, Loud, when they were jet-lagged, they were able to outskill those other teams. So they were able to at least show that they do have a high skill level, just the meshing of everything from the strategies, the IGLing, the just willingness to outplay the other team, it just wasn't there. So that's what I think the problem is. But I don't think that this team is as terrible as some people have been saying, but not as good as we expected them to be. So I am definitely concerned about this team going forward, but stage 2 could be a very different story. It is looking dire for this team, so I do feel like the fan base is quite panicked, but I don't think we're in the withered category quite yet. If they have a bad stage 2, they'll be down there. Moving on to G2, I'm going to put them in Copium again. I feel like they've also been in this neutral level quite a bit. G2 is an interesting team. They kind of just stumbled their way into playoffs. They only had +2 for round differential on Sentinels to qualify for playoffs, so it literally came right down to the wire. So them qualifying for playoffs doesn't really give me huge confidence in this team, just because the way they did it was just kind of getting lucky that teams like Energy and Sentinels had rough stages. So as a person that is rooting for this team, that's not really how I wanted it to go for them. But hey, they're here. They do have a chance to upset C9. It's possible, but it does seem like it's going to be an uphill battle. So I feel like fans of this team, maybe you're huffing copium that, maybe they can beat them, maybe they can take it to them, but it is, as I said, it's an uphill battle, but they're in it. Anything can happen. Moving on to Crew. So where do they belong? Is the fan base huffing hopium, but not at the Chad level yet? Or are they right around the other Latin American organization? I think I'm gonna put them up here with Leviathan in the Chad level. This team has exceeded every expectation of them so far. Heat has fit like a glove this split. He has looked absolutely fantastic. Kesnet right behind Aspas in terms of best duelist in the league right now. Every part of this team is looking very good. Can they get upset in playoffs? Absolutely. It can happen. And would the fan base be very disappointed in that? Yeah, of course. But just the fact that they're here, just the fact that they are in the position of 1 win away from Shanghai already, this is an exciting time for this fan base. So I'm putting them in the Chad level. And even if they don't make it to Shanghai, I'll still be proud of them. I don't know if the fan base will, but I definitely like this team right now. Moving on to 100 Thieves. Now, they definitely recovered from having a rough start to this stage, losing to Sentinels. But I feel like what they've done since then definitely puts them in hopium. Not at Chad level, because they're not a perfect team, and they did lose 2 matches during their split. One of them was against Sentinel, so a team that literally always beats them, and then one of them to Crew, the top of the other group. So you're not really putting too much stock into those losses, and you're looking at how they performed against basically everybody else. This team looks really good. Asuna had a really rough start to the season. He has since recovered. Cryo looks fantastic. Boostio seems like exactly what this team needed. And if 100 Thieves end up going to Shanghai, that'd be very interesting. We haven't seen 100 Thieves at an international tournament in quite some time. But if you're a fan of this team, do you fully trust it? You've seen this story before. You've seen this team look good and then end up kind of floundering when it mattered most. So do you think that's going to happen again? Or is this where 100 Thieves finally looked like a contender yet again in Valorant? I think it's very possible. I like their chances right now, but can't see them in the Chat level right now. So hopium it is. So these are my panic rankings of the VCT Americas before playoffs start. Playoffs get started in probably a couple hours after I upload this. I'm of course recording this the night before. So we'll see how that goes, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this ranking changes after those playoffs. So it's going to be a very good ride. Let me know what you guys think of my rankings in the comment section down below. Please click like if you enjoyed this video. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.